A lot of that depends on the
ACX.
reader, because some readers will and
Yes.
some readers won't. So part of that depends on your reader.
So Greg, you're saying ACX?
Yes, it's part of Amazon Audible.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
what
do
it
you guys-
does is you get 40% and it splits it 20-20. But do not pay the person more than $150 an hour if you're doing it that way.
So can you interview, do you interview possible readers, or how does it go?
What it is you put out a script that they read, and then they send that script that they read back to the person, and then you get to listen to it, and then you get to decide on which person. And what I would suggest is either having, depending on what they write, an action scene, have them speak, have the characters speak. That way you get all aspects of what they can do.
So can you ask as many people as you want to do this, or you pick 2 or 3, or what?
Well, what I did is I sent out the script. I had about 15 to 20 apply for it. I listened to each one of them. Some of them I shut off immediately because they were too monotone. I had another person that stressed the word that and which instead of other words that should have been stressed. So you get to listen to each one of the people, and then you get to decide. And then once you decide, you go through and you make the contract with them. Now it can either be $50 an hour with 20-20, and the person that I did, I paid $200 an hour, but I got the full 40%.
Does anybody have a good way to estimate how long it takes to read?
They actually send you how long it would take for the entire book.
Okay.
And then they split it up on the chapters, or you put in how many chapters there are, and then that person goes through and they read a chapter, and then they upload it, and then that chapter is done. And you give them a certain amount of time to do the whole book. I think before they do anything, actually get to do they get to do a 15-minute read, and then you get to hear them do the whole 15 minutes. And then you can decide from that 15 minutes if it's really who you want or not, instead of just I think it's 2,000 word for the interview.
So that's just for the reader. I mean, then the whole equipment, whoever's going to do the reading, the actual recording it, right? That's a different price.
Well, they should
No,
have
that's the whole thing altogether. Once you make
That's the
that
whole thing
contract,
altogether?
they upload it, and then once it's done, you say, okay, it's done. And then it takes Amazon about 30 days to go through the whole thing to make sure that it's good. And then they'll upload it and put it for sale at their price. You don't get to choose that price.
Okay, Greg, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So when you talk about a script, you're not actually reading your book. You have to really make it into a script for them to read it.
No, it's part of the book. They call it a script.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because you can actually put all right, I want one scene from here, and then I want one scene from here.
Gotcha.
And then they can read both scenes.
CJ, were you contributing something there? Have you done this?
That's one thing I haven't done. I was waiting for a standalone. I didn't want to jump in with a set of 12 books. But I know Amazon's a good one. Kim Hodgfeld, I can't remember how to spell her name. She's another one that does it too.
But the person that I got will actually be with me tomorrow for the audio post-book launch. And she's actually a Broadway actress, so that's why I went ahead and paid the $200 an hour.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for your audio launch. It's going to be so much fun. That's tomorrow at noon, you guys. If you guys can join in, it's going to be so much fun. And then Ferns is also tomorrow at 7 p.m. Greg, you're also going to be on that one for a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tomorrow's just audio and book launch day. It's exciting day. Sandy is not going to be with us today. I didn't want to cancel 2 Fridays in a row. She's not feeling well. She hasn't been feeling well all week. So she's dealing with how she's feeling. So this mastermind, we're pretty much just going to kind of take it with it. Really wanted to kind of reiterate what we heard on Monday, which was, you know, creating short stories and things like that. And I also wanted feedback on the breakout rooms. If you guys liked it, what else would you like to see in the breakout rooms? If, you know, we shouldn't do it ever again, just be like, that is awful. Don't ever do that again. You know, just let me know. But yeah, I mean, I really just want to help you guys in the best way that we can in what you're needing, what, you know, inspiration we can help you guys with and create and do things like that. So this is your mastermind to kind of roll with whatever questions you have, any way that I can help you, make sure Sandy helps you, any way that we can inspire you and get things done. It's kind of what today's for. So if it goes the full hour, fantastic. If it doesn't, but we get what we need, that's awesome too. I'll be here as long as you guys need me.
So you could help me, Amy, by just repeating what you were saying about what's on for tomorrow. What time is Greg's audio reveal and the other one too?
Yep, so Greg's audio book launch reveal tomorrow is from noon to 1. And then Fern's is from 7 to 9 that evening for her book launch, which is going to be a fun time. If you have a crown or a chair, please read it or wear it, because she has requested everyone do that. It's going to be, we're all going to be princesses except for a day. So Greg, you have to bring, she said you could wear your headpiece. She was so excited. So everyone do that. It's going to be so much fun. Tomorrow is a big day. We literally have a book launch every Saturday, almost all the way through till September. So just, we'll be on your calendar every Saturday, you guys. Delia's is on the 25th for her birthday. So that will be on July 25th. So make sure you tune into that one. We have a Rock Hill Publishing one, which is on July 18th at 7. That's going to be for John Ford's book. And then August 1st is also Rock Hill Publishing, which will be for Mark's book. All those will be shared continuously. So you're just going to see a bunch of promos from me recently.
So how do we access them? I mean, are we getting a link to access them? How do we get to them?
Like live on the event, or I'm not understanding. They're going to be on, they'll be live on Facebook on Sandy's page. I'll share them, or they'll be in the event page, which I'll also share on the Sandy's page in the groups and things like that. So as long as you're checking the Through the Eyes of Authors groups, which you guys, if you need a quick link for, it's always in every email I send you guys to make it easy access. It'll be in those. If you're friends with Sandy, it'll be on her page, my page, her business page, pretty much anywhere Sandy's at, it's gonna be. And it'll be on Greg's page. I'll make sure to share it on all of his pages too. So, any other questions about?
So very busy month, July.
Yeah, hopefully my other daughter comes too, so it's just gonna be a fun shebang. I'm just saying.
You are pushing way
Everything's
too hard
in
for that
July.
daughter to come.
Everything needs to be done in July. Yes. So what did you guys think about Monday night? What inspiration did you get to write short stories? Do you guys have any ideas? Do you need ideas? I love short stories. I know millennials do. The quicker I can read it and get like engulfed in it and take me out of reality really quickly, and then, you know, I have to go back to it. I love those. So if you wanted to target millennials.
Well, first of all, I like the breakout rooms. They went really well, like I said the other night. So the technology and everything worked really good. And, you know, the smaller rooms make it easier to discuss things than when you're in the room with 20 or 30 people. So when you break out and you have that focused group that people are in there for one thing, it really makes it easier to focus and to get some information across. So that was good. So the breakout rooms worked, and I think we should, you know, do them, keep them.
Was there anything specific that you want like a breakout room for, that maybe there's just like so many topics, you know, that I can combine 2 topics, you know, like, I don't know, we did publicity and writers groups, but maybe it's like editing or getting on Amazon, right? Or book promotion and book launches, things like that, where you kind of get to pick, but they kind of coincide. So when I upload the videos, they go together, kind of thing. So you're double learning.
That's a good idea, yeah, to make them, you know, well, maybe you want to make them also on two different things, because if you make them too much similar ideas, then it's which one do I go to? Like if it's publishing and finding an editor, okay? Those are two publishing problems that you might, you know, that are kind of similar. So it's like, how do I find the publisher? How do I find the editor?
Well, but if you're self-publishing, then
yeah.
you need to know how to find an editor, right?
Right.
Like good resources and things. So
Amy, are both of them
Right.
are they
I've
what?
had experiences with breakout rooms where
you were having issues
from
with
one to the other. That would be nice if we can get there.
So in order to do that, I have to physically move you from one room to the other.
Right.
So if I give each person, like each room 30 minutes, then you're not going to get the full conversation. So you're like jumping into the middle of a conversation.
Oh, no, not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
So
Okay.
that's why
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
I make you guys pick.
No, I've had experience the other way around, that you actually move from one room and you do something in that room and then something else in the other room.
Yeah, those are like, yeah. I mean, if I really wanted to time management it and have like each person only has 15 minutes in each room and move everyone, we could do that. I don't feel like we're comfortable at that point. I don't think Sandy's comfortable at that point doing it. Maybe eventually we'll get there when we have, you know, like speed speakers. That's almost like speed dating, but online, you know. maybe when we get to speed speakers and we have like 5 speakers, or we want to do like a palooza online, then we could do something like that. I'm not 100% sure that we're at that point yet, but that's a good idea, Delia. We can do that. Yes, CJ, I did have both recordings. I have to give Sandy permission to record, so then I have to pop in the other room, say that she has access to do that, and then pop out. So wherever I'm at, it will record, but as long as I give someone else permission, then it will give them permission to record. So I have those recordings to upload. Sandy's the one that uploads them into the actual membership site. So I have them, they're all labeled. They're labeled for you, Julie, so you know the names of them and the dates. Yeah, so I have those. They're not on the Facebook page yet because I'm still working on all the other ones and I didn't want to confuse myself. But I do have them. Hopefully when Sandy starts feeling better, she'll upload them to the membership. Which if you don't have the logins to, please raise your hand so I can resend you that email, because I'm getting real good at resending it. Is that what you need, CJ?
I need that. And my other question or my other statement was going to be, if you're recording them both, and if, like James said, one is really close to the other, just pick one and then they'll record the other. And if you have a specific question, maybe regarding the other room, maybe have it sent to the other moderator so they can ask that question during the session, or see if the question's answered during the session.
Yeah, so I know, that's a good suggestion. I know that Sandy likes it recorded with the questions, because some people may have that question and not want to ask it, or it may lead down a different avenue than where we were expecting. So that's why both of them kind of get recorded, just be in case. If it's, you know, irrelevant and nothing really got asked and it's the same questions, I don't tend to post those.
That's what I'm saying. If the moderator has the question, they'll know if it's either been answered or if it'll throw everything off. And if it is, then at the very end, they can ask the question if it wasn't answered yet. Do you know what I mean? So that way you can still pick and be comfortable. But if you have a specific question for, you know, each room that you're wanting to hit, you can pick it, but just send the question to the moderator.
Yeah, like communicate with them. I can do that. I'm still learning these breakout rooms. I mean, I was just, you know, feeling ballsy and was like, we're going to do this. So
I liked it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, but no, I mean, if you guys have suggestions or things that you want to learn, send me an email. I'm not going to write back and be mean, you guys. Like, you guys can send me emails and suggestions. I really am like desperately asking for them, because I'm not an author. And so I don't know exactly what you guys want to learn. And I don't want to keep teaching things that you guys have already learned, kind of, you know, beating a dead horse out. So I want to make sure it's relevant and current and you guys are getting what you need. So please send me suggestions, ideas, other things that people are doing that you want to do. Please let me know.
I will jump in here and say, I thought it was a good effort to try it out, and I thought it worked well. But for me personally, I wanted to hear both of them,
Right.
and it forced me to choose. So I would rather you just did, one person a session, and so I can hear them all, and as opposed to doubling up and then I have to choose. Now, if they're online, I could go and hear the other one later, but I would still rather just have it one person in our normal time slot. Or if it's a pair of people like Roz and Charles, the two of them together who write together. That's
Right.
just my preference, because I hate to have to choose. All of these topics are interesting to me.
Right.
And even topics that I think I just pulled out things. I've already published my book. I've been through the whole process. I know it. But I pulled out all my different guides to it, including Mike Callis's, 21 steps or 14 steps or whatever it is to publishing a book. And all these other things I've amassed, because here during this time, I have time to go back and look at what I did and what I should have done and what I haven't done, and try to pick up and do some more things. So for example, I entered a couple of contests and I won one contest, but in one of these sessions we were talking about contests, and I think it was Mike Callow said there's this association ALLI, small I, that has a section on checking out contests, and I went there, and it's wonderful. It really is a great summary and evaluation of the different contests. So that's spurred me. I'm going back to apply to a couple of more contests, not because I need to. I've already got, as Mike said, I've already gotten my award-winning badge book for my book, but I want to experience these contests while I have time to see which ones seem to be the best in the future. Anyway.
Right.
That's a little bit away from my point. My point is, I hate to have to choose between people, even if they're talking about something I feel that I know. A review is very helpful.
Right.
Hey, Julie, would it help if maybe potentially like there was a meat section on Monday? Sorry, the computer's on the dog. If there was a meat section, and then kind of we can break out into smaller groups to kind of digest it a little bit for like 5 to 10 minutes?
Maybe a meet session, but with both people, you mean both speakers, and then break out with one of the two speakers or something like that? Or
yeah, like kind of have a general, if there's two speakers, have like a general kind of, this is the chunk, this is a chunk, and then we can break out into different rooms to kind of digest it a little bit more.
And ask questions.
What do you think? It's something like that?
Yeah, that's a possibility too. Because then you get the bulk of what I have to say,
or like have one speaker who gives like a half an hour, and then for 15 minutes we do break out into smaller sections. Just a thought, Amy. I don't know how that would work, but just a thought.
Yeah, it's just like a joint presentation, and then I'll just, in the comments be like, who do you have questions for? And then I'll put you guys in separate rooms.
Yeah, it was just a thought.
Yeah.
Could you make a suggestion, which would be just have one person and you just take that person. So you just take Julie, she has her script, and we basically just praise it or trash it or build it up or restructure it. Everyone, like basically you're putting your Daniel going into the lion's den with one person, rather than lots of different, I've got a bit I want to talk about, and I've got a bit I want to talk about. You just take one person's piece of writing and we collectively analyze that.
Okay, so like an online
trash it though.
Oh, you know what I mean though. But you know what I'm saying. We rebuild it. We will rebuild you, I think.
Yeah, like an online critique group is kind of what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, one thing.
It's focused, that's why.
Okay.
One thing to be careful about is like if you get multiple speakers together, like they did at NerdFest. I don't know if you saw the one with the publishing. Me and DC Gomez felt really out of place on that because it was more about publishing and not self-publishing. So you got to be careful on that. So
that's why I'm wanting to do topics that kind of go together for like, say that we do, I don't know, like a month or two of self-publishing, everything that's entailed in self-publishing, right? How much it's going to cost you, kind of out the gate, what you need to expect, what a good editor is, what a developmental editor is, how much a cover design artist, all these things are for self-publishing to educate them. And then if you're going the publishing route, there's hybrid and traditional. So I'm kind of wanting to have like a general topic and then do breakout underneath that. But the breakout's only going to be like once a month if we do that, or once a quarter. So it's not like every session will be that way. It'll generally be what Julie was suggesting, which is just one speaker kind of talking. My ultimate goal, which I think is Sandy's, is to eventually do like a publishing publicity palooza, which is kind of what NerdFest was, which is all the different panels and things like that. So eventually we'll get to that. But as far as inspiration for short stories, who was inspired? Do you like the idea of short stories? What was your take on Monday and short stories? I love it. I feel like millennials, that's our thing.
Well, I thank you for doing that one, Amy, because I've known, I mean, I get from Alan the Authors Marketing Guild emails, and I know he's got this short story competition, and I've just been ignoring it. But now I'm kind of got a spur to try to submit something.
Oh, good. So Julie's inspired. Who else is inspired to write short stories? I love that.
And I also want to add, if anyone wants to write a short story, theoretically it should have some hook that goes with my press, like be about Houston, or be about travel, or have an international aspect. I'm willing to publish it on my website, and you can go look on my website. We've mainly been doing columns, but it's one of my goals to start publishing some fiction there too. So even if whatever, if you're interested in having an outlet, I'm offering my website as an outlet. So I've been meaning to publish myself a fiction thing on my website, and I just haven't done it. I'm going to do it.
Are you going to be part of that virtual book festival that he's holding in October?
Yes.
Good. That's good, Julie.
I'll be there.
And he's having in July 25th, 26th, he's having a big event too, a 2-day event. And as I was noting the dates that Amy was talking about, the 25th and the 26th, I think the 25th is I'm going to be at Alan's 2-day workshop. So I won't be able to do that particular one. It's all online. So all you do is sign up for it and go, and it's free.
Nice. I'll have to put that in my next email and put it in the group so everyone knows about it.
Alan Bourgeois, he runs Authors Marketing Guild.
Yeah, Sandy gets his emails. I don't get his emails. So if you could forward that to me, Julie, and I'll put it in the group so everyone's aware of it. I'm sure you guys all get it, but we'll just reiterate it and put it in there because that sounds fantastic.
What day is that again, Julie?
The workshop is, I think it's July 25th and 26th. It's a Saturday and Sunday, and it runs from like 9 in the morning till, 7 at night. And different segments. So you sit in on what you want to sit in. They're all Zooms. And he has a good lineup of people.
Awesome.
Amy, I just wanted to comment and mention that I really enjoyed the discussion in regards to short stories, and it really triggered an interest in generating a different writing path for me. So I certainly appreciated that particular segment on Monday.
Oh, good. That's fantastic. I'm excited to see where you go. So who else has, ideas and, inspiration to go down a different writing path? I know James does.
I really liked it too. And I know that we mentioned it before, but Lydia and I are doing a Christmas anthology.
Yeah.
It has to be 2,000 words or less, due by October 1st, fully edited. We're not charging for people to go in it, but you're also not getting any money from it because we're kind of doing the sweat equity. You can get the books at cost. But it came right at the same time that I wrote my short story for the anthology that we're doing. And when I wrote it, basically the two kind of came together at the same time because I didn't think about writing a short story before because my stuff's usually in series. And so the idea of writing like the backstory, or what I did was I went forward about 5 years and did like a Christmas scene. It was kind of unique and I really liked it. And I love the idea that they said about, pulling backstories of the different characters.
So you say 2,000 words?
20,000 words or less.
Oh, good. Because you were saying 2,000 words. I was like, God, that's the beginning. I don't.
No,
That's
20,000 words or less, and you get a page for you as an author. So you can put like your bio. You can put like a short paragraph, and obviously how to find you, and then like a short paragraph of maybe the background of the story. Like mine is a jump off of the series is, so that'll be explained in it. So it gets you free advertising. So
Yep. Well, mine is going to be a.
We just asked for exclusivity until next July. So basically, we'll release it in July, and then you can republish it for Christmas next year by yourself.
Yeah. I'm going to do one for you. Mine is going to be one about the devil and Santa Claus. Charlie Daniels.
Oh, I love it.
That
I'm so sad about him.
I know, me too.
That broke my heart.
Yes, I know. Mine too. But, I was thinking about something like that, and then I found out, oh, man, Charlie Daniels died? Damn, I love that song.
Instead of the devil went down to Georgia, the devil went north to the set to
the North Pole, yes. So he goes to talk to Santa.
He was looking for an elf to steal.
Well, CJ and I are working on.
It was cold outside.
Yeah. Well, CJ and I have been working on trying to get Sue Hawley to jump in. We think she could do something so fun with like blending like the Ghost of Christmas Past or something with her characters of the ghosts. So I'm still trying to pull Sue Hawley into this.
That would be interesting. Those would be cool to see.
Yep.
That's exciting. I'm glad that you guys are inspired, and I love hearing all this inspiration that's going on in different writing avenues. This is awesome.
So, Amy, you were asking for suggestions. One thing I'd like to suggest, and it's, I guess, selfish for me, but I'm exploring other genres in my usual nonfiction.
Okay.
So I'd like to see authors talk about, for example, children's books. What are necessary aspects of children's books, or sci-fi, or whatever.
Right.
Because I don't write in those genres, but I'm thinking about writing in those genres. So I like just a little bit of input.
Awesome.
How to start.
I love that. That is a great idea. We'll have Jeremy on to talk about player guides and the game that he created, because I'm so fascinated by that. I love it. Did you have a question or a suggestion, Jeremy?
Yeah. Speaking of, by the way, I finished the second round of my own editing for the story portion of the game. So it's done. My second round of editing is done. It's off to the readers, meaning the people who played the original game and gamers who've never played this game, because I've got to get a good idea from both.
Right.
And it's just the story aspect. It's not the mechanics. It's not the rules. So it's only the novel, quote unquote, portion.
Fantastic. Things are moving.
Yay.
Jeremy, that's fascinating, because like I love Larry Correia. He wrote like the Monster Hunters International and stuff. Well, he wrote 2 books based on like video games that I have never played.
Right.
But I read the books and enjoyed them.
Yeah. When video games have really great world building associated with them, and they have like a long, like they have multiple games that have a story arc, and so there's stories left untold in portions of those games. Zelda is a great example of that. Assassin's Creed, things like that. Then yes, they writing stories. So yes, I mean, yeah, write some Zelda stories and submit them. Who knows? Anyway, the other thing that I was going to say is short story wise, yes, when you have something so world built like Planet Bound is, which is the game, it really, so there's so many untold stories that can't be gone into detail in the book. They are alluded to in the book, though. That's part of the hook of a game like this, is because people want the answer, and or they get to create the answer on their own because they're playing the game. They're essentially writing the story as they're playing the game. So they get to fill in those blanks themselves. That's why you leave so many of what I call red slippers, right? And though I was thinking, for me, I know the answer to all of those. Those are in my head over the last 30 years. And what a great way to pull people into the game is through short stories. And that really didn't hit me until that. So for example, there's the event that everything happens, this event called Sun Death. Well, there's lots of stuff that happens before Sun Death, and there's lots of things that are alluded to, like little backstories, telling stories pre-Sun Death, because the game takes place 57 years after Sun Death, is really cool to like get people like, okay, this happened before this cataclysmic event. Well, what was this cataclysmic event? And let me go buy the game. Even people who are not interested in gaming. I mean, because people are going to think, oh, this is a gaming thing. I'm not interested in it. But there's so much to the story portion of it. There's so much novelization to it that if they're interested in a short story and they read a short story, they go, oh, well, let me find out the rest of the story. The rest of the story. Who was the guy? Paul Harvey?
My grandson used to hate to play games when I was there because I don't like playing games, but I made him read the storylines. He would want to just jump past the storyline and just get on to the next screen and the next part of the game. And I was like, no, read that. I want to, because I was trying to get him into reading and things like that. No, I want to know what's going on in the game. So you got to read that part out. And he's like, Grandpa, I'm just trying to play the game. So he used to hate for it when I was sitting there when he was playing the game, because I would make him go through the whole thing and read all the storylines and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a gamer, so I don't play the game, but I sit there and watch him play and make him read the story.
James,
Writing for video games is that's a completely different animal even than my game, because mine's a tabletop role-playing game. But there's some amazing writers for video games as well. A lot of that has to be translated too into multiple languages. Same thing with role-playing games like mine. I'll have it translated. I'm specifically doing it in American Sign Language because that's never been done before, and that's my background, my profession. So there's no role-playing games that have been translated into video versions of American Sign Language. So even deaf nerds and geeks out there that have wanted to play role-playing games, those books are like really thick and really dense information and a lot of rules and a lot of that deaf people are like, I'm not gonna, English is second language for them, so they're like, eh. So to have it in American Sign Language is a thing. And though to have this an international game as it's intended to be, a lot of big gaming areas would be in Chinese or Swedish. Those are probably the two biggest. Japanese.
So can you explain more about a role-playing tabletop game? And let me just say, for years when I was overseas, I would host a murder mystery evening.
That's exactly what it's like.
Okay.
That's exactly what it's like. I love that you mentioned that. So that's a great point.
So
a great comparison. So it's people getting together, taking on the roles of characters and playing make-believe. That's really adults playing make-believe.
So it's one evening's worth of game playing?
No, the original. Look at this. So everything is bound 10. This is I'm wearing the T-shirt of the original. The original campaign for this game went from 1990 to 2004.
So you assume a role and you play with a set group of players for many times?
Yes. Well, or one time. It doesn't have to be. It's not required. But if you're running a long-time campaign or a long-time story arc like Planetbound was, you're going to do multiple games over.
And the stories can be, I mean, like I said, murder mystery was always a murder. Someone happened,
yes.
Someone was the murderer.
Yes.
And the goal of the game was everyone to decide who the murderer was.
Yes. So the difference between that and a role-playing game is that there is no goal, meaning no set goal, like we finished the game goal. However, individual characters, just like when you're reading a novel, they each have their own quote-unquote hero's journey, Joseph Campbell style. So if they know what their hero's journey is, they're always in the accomplishment of that. And the game portion of it has them level up towards the accomplishment of that. But what's great is you have a party, you have several players playing at once, and each of their hero's journeys are overlapping one another because they're all playing together in the same group. So therefore, they're creating a whole brand new story, not just their individual character's story. It becomes its own animal. It's really fun. It's like them writing the novel with you.
I love it. I love all these different avenues. Red, do you have any ideas for short stories? Your blogs could be short stories or like health related ones, or maybe are you thinking of going down a different avenue? What's going on with Red? I want to know. I don't even know if he's listening to me actually.
I don't know. He just.
Red, are you there?
I feel like he's ignoring me. I feel so ignored by Red. Oh man.
While he's thinking and you get his attention, I have a question. How about, I have a lot of short stories about incidents that have happened to me. It's related to real things that have happened to me.
Okay.
Being taken over by a gang when I'm directing a children's center.
Mhm.
That good material for a short story?
People, I mean, not, yeah, I mean, I'm not, this is going to sound so bad, but people would love that. Not love what happened to you, but I'm sure that there's people out there that could relate to that. Or
No, what happened to me was really interesting. You know, you're in the middle of this, you know, just like I went into a house in the countryside in Puerto Rico, and there was a checkpoint Charlie for trafficking drugs. And there I am. And I just moved into that lovely country house. And what happened was really exciting. I happened to mobilize the whole cleaned it out.
I think people would relate to that. And I mean, I know it sounds, you know, awful to say it, but would love to read that because they either know someone that that's happened to, or it's happened to them, or they can relate, or maybe they work, you know, in a society like that. So, I mean, I think the more relatable it's going to be and the more authentic and true to yourself it is, I think the better it's going to be. Delia, we did have a short story speaker on Monday. I will post it in the group since you weren't there. I don't think you were there on Monday.
Right.
But I'll post it so you can listen to it because they talk about they write techno thrillers, and so they kind of branched out and told all these side stories as short stories for their, you know, techno thrillers. Rox and Charles did. So I will post the video so you can watch it because it was really good.
Delia, what was your story again? All I heard was Checkpoint Charlie as being a drug dealing point, which is a good.
Well, Checkpoint Charlie, there was the drug trafficking in the neighborhood, and
I name like Charlie, of course, it's going to have a drug trafficking point.
It's where that's where they check in to receive and exchange the drugs, and they were like would hide between the bamboos, and there it was, and I went and got it. Well, it's just how. There's a friend of mine from Texas, by the way, a former colleague, and we used to talk about these things that would happen to us, and we said we were going to name it I was minding my own business, and this happened. You know, it's like, you know, what has happened to me, because I've been in the trenches, you know, professionally as an educator, that I'm not expecting this. I just got this job. I just got my master's and I'm ready to direct my first early childhood center, and boom, you know, 2 days after I show up there, the Kwanogan, which is somebody that in that era was actually taking over churches because they were prejudiced and they were not allowing the Black children and the Puerto Rican children in, you know. So here I had a staff, a Puerto Rican director had a staff with an Afro-American, a bookkeeper that ran out every director because she wanted, you know, the director. And then I had Chinese children and white children and white Jewish teachers. And there was an after-school program that was connected to Kwando that was doing rescuing of using churches to feed children and give them services. And this is in the Lower East Side, New York. And Chelsea was really interested. It was run by a Protestant church or something. And I went through the whole thing. On the center went into receivership, and you know, the city took over, and I went through the whole thing until we got everything out. But actually, one of the teachers in the after school program was injured, and these guys were just trying to do action to make sure that all children were included. Interesting.
Including what, in the drug dealing?
No, the drug dealing, people, this was in Puerto Rico. I rented this small house in the countryside, and then I begin to see in the bush, you know, not in a very close proximity, lights in there, and that's where you exchange drugs. So I went and got a former parents, because I used to direct a Montessori school in there, and I said, help me out. I can't just move now. I just started to teach at the university and to, you know, kind of pick up all my stuff and go someplace else. It's going to disrupt my school year. And it's just like going out to the hills to try somebody to get him to knock off the bamboos. And then, you know, one night I was so getting a dog so that the dog getting the owner to fence the back of it so that I can keep the dog. And then, one day I was not afraid. I was just frustrated, and visiting the neighbors. What are you guys doing about this? Do you know what's going on? They all knew. They just said, I should get a husband and be safe in my home. And so one day I was so pissed. The dog kept barking and I couldn't, and I couldn't sleep. And I threw a karate chop, I went, ah, and it echoes through the whole place. And then people from the different houses came and they gathered at my backyard and the police passed by. And I was having a town hall meeting there at my yard. And through organizing, my sister was so excited, the sister that's, the opposite of me, got me the macheteros and come and clear all the bushes. I would put lights up, all the neighbors would put lights up. It was like, wow. And I had family.
What drugs were they dealing?
Sides, and then I said, come by my house and look like you're visiting me so that I'm not there alone. I was there alone. And before you know, it's just a mobilization of the neighborhood that we did organically. And then for a weekend, I went to San Juan. Somebody invited me to have a good time. And when I came back, they caught them. They caught them. And there's more to the story because there's something about, visiting people. These were kids of the people who lived there that were being drafted by drug dealers and all this kind of thing. But everybody, kind of honked in their safety zone. And I was the one that supposedly was vulnerable. But my being there became the catalyst of getting rid of the drug trafficking there. That's the short story.
And so, just what were they trafficking? Cocaine, weed? What was it?
Well, that I don't know. They were trafficking drugs. I didn't know those details, but they were trafficking drugs. It could have been any of those.
Right. Sorry, I was just curious. That was just interesting.
So I mean, that detail I didn't get. I was just so happy that it was clear. And then I got myself an apartment in the San Juan area, which is where I was teaching. And so some family moved in there and just loved it because before they couldn't rent that house because of that problem, which I was not told of when I rented the house. It's just one of these things that happen, that you get in the middle of this mess and you never asked for this, but you're in the middle of it. And for me, those of you who believe in the grace of God, and it's like you were put in there to be a catalyst to something, and then your life moved on someplace else. And a lot of that stuff happens to me. It happened to me. And I never got hurt.
Wow. See, there's someone out there that can relate to that or is in that situation, or, it's inspiring. So, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. I would take if you could take every, big thing that happens in your life or even a little thing and just make it into a short story, it's going to hit home with somebody. Someone's going to be able to relate to it, or it's going to resonate with someone. And so, I mean, why not write it down?
Those of you who write short stories, do you think that's interesting, that people are interested in that? I mean, I do respect that you think that, but I like some feedback. I do write them. I record them because it's just a human story, how people come together and help each other, and that something needs to happen.
I'm muted. Yes. Okay. I'm writing a whole series of books on that. So yeah, people will be interested in it. Part of the Killer series, a lot of it weaves through the whole idea of the war on drugs and stuff like that happened. Because I'm from New York, grew up in New York in the 70s, 80s, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Know many of people in the drug business on all sides of it. So people are interested in those stories. So yeah, I mean, you write it. If it's interesting to you, it will be interesting to somebody else. You're never alone in this world. Yeah. That's what you got to realize as a writer. That's why when they say, "Ooh, write for your audience," you're your first audience. So if the story is interesting to you, other people will find it interesting too. And that's why you have to write for yourself first. If you don't write a story that you care about, nobody else will care about it either. But if you care about it, then other people will care about it, because we all have similar experiences, and even if we don't have the experience, we're interested in finding out what this means or what have happened to somebody else. And so, like I said,
and I could write it, not that this happened to me, I could write it as a series of, it could be, I can make it nonfiction. Will that be a good idea?
Yeah, it would be good nonfiction, as long as you don't out anybody. So, and depending upon, when you write nonfiction, especially crime fictions, and when you write nonfiction, you got to be careful, because there are two things. One, statute of limitations. Two, are you an accessory to this crime? Because you may not have done the crime, but you could be an accessory to the crime simply because you knew about it and you said nothing. So you have to be careful when you write nonfiction, in that you might be exposed to yourself, and of course you might be exposing other people. And depending upon, like usually with drug crimes, there's a statute of limitation. If someone gets killed in that process, now that's murder. There is no statute of limitation. So you knowing about somebody who murdered somebody and you said nothing makes you an accessory after the fact.
No one got killed there, but there's a little piece of that. I was so frustrated about not getting that machine to knock off the bamboo trees, because they were covering behind that. So I just got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and wore, like that army color thing, and then burned them, And in the morning, the traffic was passing by, and and the bamboos were burned. And they were burned by me, and then I hid myself. How I did that is like, I don't know. I do know. It was a God-inspired thing, and God was protecting me. And when people would say, I mean, you live there alone? And I said, of course not. And word got around that I was a representative of the FBI watching that, and I let the word, run. It was just weird. It's like a short mystery story, but I and everybody else were the protagonists, because people had been robbed. My sister, who's kind of from the side, went and got a whole bunch of brigade of men to clear out the place. And she was so impressed with what was happening. And everybody was protecting me. And the whole neighborhood all the neighbors, I was having tea and juice and homemade cheeses, visiting them just to hang out with them on the weekend. And it was an interesting thing.
If you do fiction, it allows you a little bit more scope for artistic license. So you can change it up. So you can be a bit more specific about how it's dealt. So because dealers will deal different drugs a different way, and they'll have different flow patterns and stuff like that, which can add to the cadence of the story. I'm sure James can tell you all about how they do it in New York. But it's like that sort of thing where that stuff, and that's, if you have it's fictional, you can change the island. So you're protecting yourself and stuff like that. So you're not inadvertently, accessory to something, because you can. If you saw something going on and you said nothing, you might be accessory to, encouraging the distribution of illegal contraband substances or something under, whatever. Yeah.
My skate, I spread it all over the place, and everybody protected, and everybody, honed in and really decided to be active.
I think what they're trying to say is you need to protect yourself. So if you write a fiction version, you're protecting yourself and anybody else around. Plus, you can't get sued for slander potentially either. So fiction is probably your better option to put it under. You can put whatever realistic elements you want in there, but if you write it as fiction, it stops you from being sued.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because when you make it fiction, you can still get sued for slander, depending upon what you say about people. Even though you say, and you put the disclaimer in the front that, hey, this is fictional characters, not meant to represent anybody. If you make it too specific about somebody, they may come back and say, if the person can be identified in your story, they can sue you. Because even though you say it's fiction, if the person say, well, anybody who reads this story can identify as me. So if you say it's about Puerto Rico, or you say the mayor of so-and-so was, covering up and blah, 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 but you give enough identifying characteristics of this mayor, even though you put it in a fictional town that don't exist in Puerto Rico and all that kind of stuff, he could still sue you for slander because he said, well, anybody who reads this will obviously know you're talking about me. So when you make something fictional, it doesn't automatically cover you and protect you. You have to not only make it fictional, but you also have to obscure some of the facts so that it doesn't pinpoint you or the characters in your story. But it's always helpful to make it a fictional story because it does protect you a lot more than if you write a factual story, because then you have to prove what you wrote too. Or else people will get you for slander and libel and all that kind of stuff if you don't have fact to back it up. Like you could say, okay, all this stuff happened, and then somebody could say, well, prove it. And you don't have any proof.
Okay.
Yeah. So write the story, and then, look at it and decide what you can change, what you don't need to change, how it should read. Pass it around to a few people. Let them read it and find out. Especially fiction writers, crime story writers, people like that, because they could tell you, ooh, no, don't say that about somebody, Oh, you don't want to say that. That's going to get you in trouble. I know this guy, he wanted me to write his story, and he robbed banks. And he went to jail for robbing like 3 or 4 banks. And he wanted me to write his story. And I was like, okay, fine, but make sure you only tell me the story that you have been tried and went to jail for. Don't slip in the story that you have not, a bank robbery that you have not been tried for, because if you do that and it goes in that story, guess who's coming back for you? They're going to arrest you on the story that you didn't get arrested for before. So when you write fictionalized stories, and the Killer series is really a fictionalized story, because I know a lot of people who are in different businesses and in the mob and in this and in that and different things that happen. But everything, all the story itself is fiction. It's based on characters and a conglomerate of characters that I knew and grew up with. Like, I knew people in the mob. I knew people, who dealt drugs. I know people who was, on their way to being radicals and all that kind of stuff. So, but the idea was I still obfuscated all level details and wrote a fictional story that just merged a whole bunch of people and characters together and things like that.
Like, for instance, in the story about the church taking over, not to identify Cuando, the guy in Cuando, that's what they were called.
Right. I mean, Delia, a lot of the elements in my stories are fiction. A lot of them are me. I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, but a lot of stuff happened to me. And you can spin it to keep everybody protected. But as far as the story concept itself, a strong female, a community coming together to help oust out drugs. Come on, that's like, yes, do it. But do it in a way that protects everybody that's even remotely connected, including yourself.
It's going out of your comfort zone and making a solution happen. That's what it's about. So you went out there with a purpose, and then you had some external dodgy geezers come in, and you dealt with it, but you didn't have any experience of how to deal with a bunch of, dime bagging drug dealers, right, on the corner, brought it on behind the altar, and that's sort of cool. So it's how you put that together. Maybe change Ireland to Costa Rica. It's Costa Rica now. It's not Puerto Rico, right? So
they don't do too much drug trafficking in Costa Rica. You know that they're the.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
No,
I wanted to say the same thing.
Yes,
don't think that.
Do Dominican Republic. You can do. There's so many places you could go.
No, I'm kidding here. And thank you for indulging me in all this advice. But so, is it a good idea to do a compendium of short stories, or just start with one short?
Just try one and see how it comes out. See how it's received.
No, but
it's kind of like, you just got to put the story out there and see how it is. Like Zach's concept about the Christmas one, I think is brilliant. You know, when you pull Christ out of Christmas, what is it going to look like? You know, just put it out there. See who takes it. See who
Wow,
doesn't. See
interesting.
what
But still
sticks.
been Yuletide log, right? Because that's Germanic forest tribes.
Yeah.
But you know,
I have a story in the streets of Harlem, you know, leaving a community club in a church that was going to be converted to a daycare center, and walking home, I'm too impatient and it's too cold. And I got, you know, here I am with somebody with a gun and somebody with a knife on the other side, and how that, you know, went about. And I'm talking to the two guys, you know.
and how you feel as well. It's how you feel about it, how you're scared inside, but you're doing it for the greater good. So you sort of bite your lip, and how when you're thinking inside your head. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the interesting bit. It's not the morality side, no, not really. But it's the fact that the reality of how you have to deal with it. I find that interesting. How people outside of something they know deal with something.
It's the show don't tell theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Show.
All right, everybody. I got to
Put
run.
them in it.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I appreciate your feedback.
Everybody have a good one. See y'all on Friday, Saturday, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, what's
Yeah.
Saturday?
Bye.
Book launch.
Oh, well, the book launch for some people, and I'm doing the Slover Library Author Fair.
Yeah.
Book launch. I'll be at
It's in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Look in the chat. You'll find the link.
Don't remove the chat.
Yeah.
No, I won't.
All right, gotta go.
You guys,
Bye.
we do
Bye.
have 3 minutes, so if anyone else wants to share or whatever. Athena, are we gonna get some romance side short stories from you?
No, I'm not a short story writer.
Oh man, I like those. I like the little like side ones, you know. I don't know. That's just what I'm into.
I know how to write them, but I don't like it.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't do something you don't like. Bye, Julie. All right. Does anyone have any last feedback? I just got sneezed on. Last feedback or suggestions that you want before we log off? It's still happening. This is so gross, you guys. Anyways.
I like the idea of I'm like a person who doesn't normally touch short stories with a 10-foot pole, because I cringe when they say, well, you got to get the summary down to 250 words. Well, you got to get it down to 10 words. Like 10 words for an entire story, or you're out of your tree. I'm a writer. But the idea of it being like a teaser is what appealed to me. So it's kind of like this Christmas story that we're writing is a teaser to the other series. And I think that's to lid. I think it's a good concept. And I think if you can get it down there, that it's a good way to send like a teaser out of a bigger series. It's kind of like giving away the first book in the series for free, and it's the hook.
True. I do love it. All right. I'm so glad that you guys were inspired. Monday was so great for everyone. So I don't know what Monday has a hold. I usually don't find out until Author Talk when Cindy tells me on Author Talk, but I'm sure it's going to be great. So you guys have a great weekend. Stay healthy, stay home, indoors, you guys, social distance. But I will see you all on Monday or on Saturday for Greg's thing and Fern's thing, and James has a thing. So I will see you all just every day, pretty much. So bye, you guys.
Bye.